Brandon, welcome to Geer Talk.
Still talking gear.
Still talking gear all these years later.
Yes.
It has been quite some time since we were live on the internet.
Yes. I think 4 years, 4+ years.
4 years, 4 months. We're still here. The couch is still the same color. Different studio. Actual studio lights, cameras. Still no hair and makeup. Hopefully we look good all out there.
Shining away, yes.
Here's what we looked at last time we were live on the internet. This is us talking about ClearCom. See if you can spot the differences in our appearance today versus way back then. Oh, geez. Now, it was April Fool's Day. I don't know if you were playing a prank on me or if I was playing a prank on you.
Some type of nuclear tourist.
Well, you know, we went with a bit more of a casual vibe today. We heart SM58. We're talking about Shure today.
All day.
Specifically, we're going to talk about the world of Shure IntelliMix. What do we mean by IntelliMix? What is it? How did it start? How is it being implemented today? All throughout the Microflex ecosystem. That's what we're going to do here on Geer Talk.
Talking gear.
First, we want to recap the last 4 years because there's been a lot of news and updates in this world specifically. And this is not even a complete review of all things Shure. We're not going to touch on Axion Digital, AD-PSM, ANX4. All of that is coming next month. Here, we're going to stay focused on all things Microflex and IntelliMix. I think as the thumbnail said, we're microflexing with Shure today.
Yes.
If you can't see the microflexing happening, it's extremely micro.
It's tiny.
September 2021, the AI denoiser, Shure's first adventure into an AI algorithm. Brandon, what is it?
AI, right? It's everywhere today, but 4 years ago, it was the first foray of Shure into the artificial intelligence world. Basically, it's looking for dynamic sounds to delete from your conferencing audio. So if you're going to have a meeting or a training, something of the sort where you're going to have unwanted sounds, there's going to be things going on that you may or may not want to have in your audio. You want something that can sense what it is, sense that it's not speech, and then delete it dynamically.
Now, this is not the same as noise reduction, though it sounds similar, right? But noise reduction
is looking for a consistent, steady state sound that it can look at and delete. Something like an air fan, an air conditioner, maybe a leaf blower outside. Things that are going to be very sustained, non-dynamic is what it's looking for, where AI is looking for the dynamic changes.
Right, and so right now, we're going to dive into more of this, but we've got an IntelliMix Room kit here, which is running the IntelliMix Room software. You're going to find the AI denoiser inside of an IntelliMix Room instance. Right now, we've got it on, as you can see here. We're going to turn it off, so here's those pin clicks. Yep, here's me opening a mint. Here's all this sorts of fun noise, and now here's with the AI denoiser on. Right, so hopefully you are hearing me, but not the pin clicks. Comment and let us know. Here I am opening a bag of trail mix. Typing on a keyboard.
Common things you'd have in your office, something you might keep around your desk. You know, it's trying to delete those sounds as necessary.
Now let's see how much the Shure team, as they were programming the algorithm, what sorts of sounds it's eliminating. One of these. Okay, I don't know if anybody
saw some type of rejection. Maybe they did get a can opening. Yeah.
You know, the sound of a good time in a conference room. How about this one? Let's see here. Okay.
I didn't see as much reduction, so maybe they did the can but not the bottle.
That's for after the successful live stream. We'll leave that right there to the side. So we've tried to think of everything in the AI denoiser. More sounds are getting added all the time. If you've got a favorite dynamic noise source that is not being eliminated by AI denoiser, let us know. We'll see if we can get that added. Okay, that is software. Then, very important hardware update. April of 2022, we sunset the MXA 910, really changed the game in terms of a ceiling array microphone, and introduced the MXA 920.
We replaced the flagship product with a better flagship product. The 920 took all of the information that we were able to gather through the 7 or 8 years of the 910 and build upon it into a next generation array architecture, which included some physical changes to the mic on the inside, while the exterior looks exactly the same, but it also includes a lot more horsepower for software related items such as IntelliMix.
And now with the MXA 920, one important new feature was the ability to provide talker location data. So inside of an MXA 920, you can still in steerable coverage mode, lock your lobes to specific placements around the room. Or you can do automatic coverage where you just assign a region and allow the array to deploy lobes as needed. How do we do this? Well, that's part of kind of the magic under the hood, but what the MXA 920 is doing is pinpointing the location of a talker to about 1 centimeter square, or the size of a sugar cube. We can then report that information out into the world. Your favorite camera tracking system can grab that talker location data, recall a preset, or dynamically track a talker through the space. Very cool. That was April of 2022. May of 23, we come out with the MXA 902. Sure, the dyslexic community would like a word.
Yes.
We're gonna put that to the side. But MXA 902, what was it? Why is it cool?
902, same form factor as the 920. It's again a 24-inch by 24-inch square array. What it brings to the table that's unique is a loudspeaker. So the same PoE source that's providing power and control to your microphone is extended now to a driver, an actual loudspeaker that lives inside of the array that can cover about a 20 by 20 area.
So as compared to the MXA 920, which is a microphone only, covers about a 30 by 30 square foot space. That's kind of what we say out of the box.
And reports XYZ data.
MXA 902, smaller space, 20 by 20, still a good size room. In fact, we've got one here in the studio. You are listening to us through an MXA 902. Again, we're going to talk more about that in the context of an IntelliMix room kit. So more development in ceiling arrays. Then we continue January of 24, the MXA 901. Now we've got a little brother.
We do. The 901 is the, again, same next generation array architecture, but it's in like a dinner plate sized array. Only available in a circle, and it's about 10 inches across. You can get them in black, white, or silver. But this is to give designers a more appropriate tool for small and mid-sized rooms, and it's to give architects more tools to work with in keeping our AV from being too disruptive to the space.
And just to mention, we've got IntelliMix now built into the 920, the 902, and the 901. So you're going to have that auto mixer, some echo cancellation, some noise reduction on board in the array itself. At the same time we introduced the MXA 901, we came out with the Microflex Wireless Next 2. That's what we got on the corner of the table here. Our first entry into the next generation of Microflex Wireless. What was different about Next 2?
Quick hit on Next 2 is that it's an all-in-one. Instead of having 3 pieces of hardware where you had a charging station, an access point, and a DSP, they've combined all those items into the one box. And so this allows you to either make it very easy to be portable on a cart or move around between spaces, or if you're in a simple room where you may only have a teacher or a presenter, it sort of makes it a one-stop shop without having to run cables around a facility, without having to run access points. It's a much simpler way to manage 2 channels.
And again, we've got IntelliMix built in to the Next 2 system. So sensing a theme here, adding IntelliMix at the endpoint or first step in the audio chain, right there in the microphone. March of 2024, Designer 6.0. I know that one was important to you, Brandon. Why did it mean so much?
6.0 was the release for Mac OS of Designer software. There is quite a few of us Mac users, especially the more Western you go, and we felt a little left out at the beginning, being forced to dual boot or find some other way to work within the Microsoft ecosystem. The native release for Mac has been a great thing, and we are definitely enjoying the ability to work on our native platform.
We're going to see Designer 6.0 a little later in our interview. Actually, you know what, Brandon? We should probably tease what's coming up here. So we've been talking about all of these fun new updates. As you're noticing, there is IntelliMix all over the place here.
Yes.
What we want to do is in a little bit, we're going to talk to Ryan Budvitis from Shure. He's going to sit here in studio with us, talk to us more about IntelliMix room kits, Microflex Wireless Next, how these things can interact, when you should, why they're better, all sorts of fun stuff here in studio.
As well.
We're going to touch on the ShureCloud. First, though, we're going to talk to our old friend, Michael Pettersen, the Shure historian. There's a photo of Michael. He is pictured with the SM7B. He's actually previously has joined us here on Geer Talk.
Talking Gear.
Both to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Shure. There he is being interviewed by our fearless leader, Mr. Alan Geer. He also spoke to us previously about the history of the SM7B, and we're happy to have him back on. He was actually there at the origin of IntelliMix. He was there on the front lines in the product development team. This is going back 30, 40 years. It's really fun to get that context and history from Michael.
On the trademark as the man that invented the phrase IntelliMix.
Well, legally, we should say, we don't know if he's on the trademark. Sure, legal if you're listening. Don't quote us. But we're really happy to have Michael joining us. So Michael, I want to say thank you again for coming on. Good morning. How are you? Welcome back to Geer Talk.
Talking Gear. Michael, you got us?
You're welcome, and indeed I was there. You know, you can blame it on me if you want.
We can credit you. That's how we'll put it. Well, thank you for coming back on Geer Talk.
Talking Gear.
This is your third appearance, making you our most frequent guest. So we got a little punch card for you. There'll be a free breakfast burrito whenever you come our way.
I still haven't got the first check from Alan, so you let him know that.
He's in the other room. We'll poke him after this. Michael, real quick on your background. When did you start at Shure?
I started Shure October 1976, and I was in sales originally. I was a regional sales manager. As a matter of fact, Southern California was one of my areas. So that's when I first started coming out there. I did that for about 5 years, and I really wasn't cut out for it, I felt. I was far more interested in the products. So in 81, I got the opportunity to become the product manager for what we called circuitry products back then. And that was mixers and anything that basically plugged into the wall or used a battery to operate. So that's how I got into doing the products that eventually led to IntelliMix.
Very cool. So then it was not very long after you joined that team. It was the early 80s, right? Shure had the AMS 22. Am I getting that right? The automatic mic system?
That was my first project. So when I became a product manager, there were two products dropped on my desk. One was the M267 mixer, which was a replacement for the M67 mixer. And I was very comfortable with that because I understood that. But there was another thing that was called the AGM, auto-gated microphone. And I had absolutely no idea what that meant. I was unfamiliar with automatic mixers. I really didn't know anything about that. So my learning curve was very steep. I had to learn very quickly what that was. And the one thing that became apparent to me was that the idea that we had was great. We basically had special microphones that had two cardioid cartridges inside of them placed back to back. And those two signals went back to the mixer, and the mixer compared the front signal to the back signal. So when the cartridge facing the talker was 10 dB louder than the cartridge facing away from the talker, the mic came on. So basically the threshold floated with ambient noise. Great idea. But, I had no idea what the competition was or anything else like that. So as I started looking into it, I started talking to dealers around the country who were installing automatic mixers, then a brand new technology. And they all said to me, they're too complicated. I can't figure out how to set them up, too many knobs and so forth. And so the concept I came up with was, if we could make this really simple, that you basically plug the microphone in and you turned up a volume control, that maybe that would help grow automatic mixers. And so we made it as simple as possible, and it did really well for us. Now, we didn't get the really big jobs, but we got all the city councils and all of the PTA meetings and so forth like that.
So you're saying 40 years ago there was an emphasis on ease of use, simplicity, making sure the system could be deployed correctly. That seems like a theme that we haven't gone too far away from.
Yeah, it sounds like today.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I tested it was when I helped write the installation manual, or actually it was the quick setup guide. I tested it out on people who were like secretaries who were very non-technical, and they're like, I can't do this. I said, just try it. And sure enough, they could set it up and they could operate. And I knew that we had a winner then. So the AMS, automatic microphone system, was our first voice-activated product. And of course, you might consider it really our first major conferencing product.
Well, and it became the building block to a larger, more complete system. That was the ST6000 Shure teleconferencing. And just as a reminder, we're talking the analog days. So when you're talking about comparing signals, everything, this is voltage running through a circuit.
Yep, exactly. And see, up until around in the late 70s, federal courts broke up AT&T. And at that time, when it happened, then other companies could make products that would go on the telephone line. Before that, only Western Electric products were allowed to be hooked up to telephone lines, nothing else. And so now when that happened, now Shure could bring out a teleconferencing product that could hook up the telephone line and be legal. Before that, it was illegal. You could not make anything like that. So when that change happened, we took the automatic microphone system, added in a telephone interface, added in a little power amplifier and so forth, and the ST6000 came out, voice-activated microphones, loudspeaker on the table, interface to call, for your dial-up landline. That was it. So we were really one of the first to do teleconferencing in that manner. That was the ST6000, type 1, as we call it.
Is that the point in history where you coined the phrase, or did you coin the phrase IntelliMix on the first generation, the first product?
No, that was late. That was later. So what happened was that some people objected to having to use only our microphones for AMS and for the ST6001. Had to be the double element microphones, right? So some people wanted to use other ones, and you couldn't do it unless you had the double element mic. So an engineer here named Steve Jolstrom came up with what we call type 2 gating, which basically used only a single element microphone and didn't require the double element. So then that was the ST6000 type 2. And you can use whatever mics you wanted in that case. I came up with the idea after that came out was, what about a portable automatic mixer for broadcast? That had never been done before. 4-channel mixer, AC operated or battery operated, and it would do automatic mixing, turning microphones on and off for sports announcers, for talk shows, whatever like that. So we started working on that. It was going to be called, well, it was called the FP410, Field Production, 4 input, 1 output, no operator, 410. That's what
that's the 0. Okay.
Yep. And when I was working on it, I started to come up that we had type 2 gating, which type 2 gating is not a really exciting term, right? What kind of gating is it? Oh, type 2. But it basically had noise adaptive threshold, it had max bus, and it had last mic lock on. So those 3 circuits all worked at once to make it work properly. I said, it's got to have a name. We didn't have a name for it. So I started sitting and I came up, started writing down stuff. And one thing I wrote down was intelligent mixer, right? And then eventually that got contracted to IntelliMix. It was not used, it hadn't been used as a trademark before. So our legal department said, thumbs up. And so we used the IntelliMix term for the first time with the FP410. And that would have been 1990, I believe.
Wow.
Very, very cool. And can we break down a little bit each of those 3 core components of IntelliMix? So noise adaptive threshold at the time, and I believe still today, right? This is unique technology from Shure. How is a noise adaptive threshold operating differently than a standard threshold in an auto mixer?
It has the ability, and I'm not an expert at the circuitry level, so let me just kind of give you the simple version of it, is that it has the ability to distinguish between speech-like sounds, which are rapidly starting and stopping, and non-speech-like sounds, like the AC in my office here, or a fan or something like that, which is very consistent. So it can distinguish between the two. And then anything that it sees as a consistent background noise, that raises or lowers the threshold above that. So that's kind of noise adaptive threshold. Max bus is, let's say we're in a room, there's 4 of us talking, we're all talking. My microphone, my voice doesn't just reach my microphone, of course it travels to all the other microphones. What max bus does is it says, okay, what microphone is picking up that person the loudest? And then it decides to activate that microphone for that person. So 1 talker, 1 mic on, 2 talker, 2 mics on, 3 micers, 3 talkers, 3 mics on. That's how that works. And then the last thing was last mic lock on. So when there was silence in the room or nobody talked, you really didn't want all the microphones to go off, because if you're listening to the audio, it sounds like everything disappeared.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. So basically, the last mic lock on says, okay, whatever the most recent microphone is, keep it on until another microphone activates. So you do noisy diff, threshold, max bus, and last mic lock on, all operating at once, and that's IntelliMix.
And so then you've got IntelliMix, it's in the FP410. How quickly after that do we come out with the SCM 410 and 810? Now we're into the early 90s?
Yeah, early 90s. Literally, the SCM 810 was developed like in an afternoon. I was the product manager at the time, a guy named John Tatulis and Matt Anderson. Matt was an engineer. John Tatulis worked for me in product management. By the way, they went on to form Sound Devices. Those are the two guys that started Sound Devices. Anyway, so we were sitting there one day and we said, you know, the FP410 is really great for broadcast and so forth, but it's not what sound contractors want. Sound contractors want more inputs and they want something that's rack mountable and so forth. So John and Matt and I literally sat in my office one day and we sketched out in about 4 hours the SCM 810. And you know, talk about a successful product. If I'm not mistaken, I think we still sell it today, right?
We certainly do. That was a productive afternoon on your guys' part.
It was, yeah, exactly. So that was 1990. So it's 35 years now that automatic mixer has been out there. And I think the reason it continues to sell, it's simple.
Yeah.
Right? Plug it in, turn it on, go away.
Yeah.
You know. So the SCM 410 came out a little bit later. You know, some people said 8 channels is too much, so we got the 410 as well. And the FP410, I think that stayed around for about 10 years, I'm not certain. So that whole thing was all based upon IntelliMix. So that's where the term got it. Now, it means almost, you know, it's still used today, but it means much more than I meant it for in the first place. By the way, I never got a raise for creating that name either.
I was going to say, does the patent office have your name somewhere where they trademarked?
The trademark does. Trademark does.
Excellent.
But you know,
excellent.
So yeah, so it's I'm delighted it's still around 35 years after I created it, but I never thought it would grow into this whole thing encompassing a whole product line now.
Right. And can you believe, right, the last time we spoke to you, it was about the SM7B on the anniversary of the SM7. There's another similar story, right? This product from 40 years ago, which is successful and doing well, but then becomes a rocket ship kind of late in its career. And now we have the SM7DB and the MV7, and it's a huge part of our wired microphone portfolio. And then similarly with IntelliMix, there it is 35 years ago, important, successful, but look at what it's become in just the last 18 months.
It's the core of our ecosystem now, right? And we're putting IntelliMix in as many products as can support it because it seems to get the job done.
Yeah, so it was about 5 or 6 years ago, Steve Jolstrom, the guy who created Type 2 gating, is an independent consultant. He left Shure in the late 80s and basically decided he wanted to work on different things. Anyways, Steve lives in Chicago. We see each other every now and then. And I think he's got about 22 or 24 patents to his name now. So we had lunch a while ago, and he said, I've been thinking about the Type 2 gating. He still calls it Type 2 gating. He says, and I've been trying to think about a way how to improve this. This is 35 years later. He says, I can't think of a better way. I can't think of a way to improve it. And really, you think about it now it's in digital language, if you will, but the concept is still the same.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this has been a great way to understand IntelliMix kind of from its first principles. Thank you, Michael. We so appreciate your time. Look forward to finding another topic to bring to your attention sometime down the road. Maybe we'll get you here in studio.
We'll get the right event to get you out to the West Coast. Probably in the winter, if you don't mind. We'll get you away from.
That's not a problem. But we only have 100 years of history to look at, so I've got a few other subjects we can discuss.
Thank you, Michael. Take care. Be well.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Always pretty cool being able to talk to Michael Pettersen.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Michael. Appreciate it.
We're so lucky to have him. Well, let's do a quick hit through the 2025 new products because there's been a lot going on just this year. We've had at the start of the year, I think we first introduced the rest of what would become the Microflex Next lineup, the Next 4 and 8 system. So we've got an 8-channel access point here, a couple of 4-bay chargers, goosenecks, boundaries, body packs. We're going to actually see how to configure Microflex Wireless Next in Designer in just a little bit with Ryan. We also have the MXN amp, which we introduced with the MXP passive loudspeakers, kind of rounding out the audio path for us, Brandon.
Yeah. You know, Shure is not new to loudspeakers. They've made loudspeakers for many, many years, and this is just the latest format to join the family. It really starts with the amplifier, though. The key thing is that it is a PoE-enabled amplifier, and it is plenum rated. So this means that when behind your display is full or under your table is full or wherever you were planning on putting it doesn't work out, you can always go right above the tile and actually park this and all of its cabling out of sight while still remaining within code. Speakers themselves are pretty small and low output because they're only designed for speech and a little bit of playback, but you would be using these the left and right of your display, maybe overhead. Their spatial audio has crept its way into our conferencing world, and Shure's trying to meet that demand by giving us a multi-channel amplifier and some very slick speakers to put on the walls and ceilings.
Dante-enabled amplifier.
Yeah.
Fits into our idea. We've had the Dante-enabled PoE MXN5, the ceiling speaker, just introduced at Infocom a couple months ago, the MXN6, Dante-enabled PoE pendant form factor loudspeaker. So you could think of this as the active version of the MXP6, so just continuing to offer more solutions there. But there's a cool whole that's greater than the sum of the parts when you're using Dante-enabled Shure devices, from microphone to processing to loudspeaker endpoints.
End-to-end, Shure product to Shure product is encrypted Dante audio. So a means of protecting your IP or sensitive conversations is by using Shure product from beginning to end. We can actually encrypt the Dante signal from end to end.
Speaking of a complete Shure package, we've got the IntelliMix room kits now. So we mentioned we're talking through an MXA 902. That's actually running through an IntelliMix room kit. We're going to talk about that with Ryan, but we've got the IntelliMix room kits and the IntelliMix foundation system, but room in a box, Brandon, is that the bottom line here?
It's the idea that you get a large cardboard box, depending on the size room that you want to deploy in. You're going to unbox it, you're going to plug it all together, and then power it all up. And in that order, the devices will all find each other, seek each other out, and make the necessary connections so that all you need to do at that point is enter your team's credentials, and you're up and running.
Well, here to fact check us live on anything we may or may not have gotten wrong, Ryan from Shure. Ryan, thanks for joining us on Geer Talk.
Thank you guys for having me. But
yeah, we need a drum roll,
fact-checking.
lights. You know, we do have like hazers and confetti. I'm sure we could have thought of something a little bit more
Bubble
dramatic
machine,
there.
right?
Bubble machine.
Next time we'll do bubble machine.
Next time.
Ryan, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your background with Shure.
Yes. I'm
What
doing
brought you here
well.
today?
Thank you guys for having me. Yes, been with Shure for a few years now. But prior to that, I was with a little company named STEM Audio. And I was one of the folks that got brought over with the acquisition. We call it a merger, but we know what happened. And from there, I got to join just an incredible team. And, you know, I'm also in the Orange County area, so I do get to spend quite a few, some time with the Geer Tech folks. And yes, and so I am part of the market development team, and we are the end user facing wing of the company. And so we do a lot of work together where we're meeting with our end users, making sure that they are aware of new products, what's going to be best for them in terms of what they're trying to do with new room outfits, all of this type of stuff, rollouts, everything. And we get to bring all of this information back to our team. And we get to be kind of an active part of what gets rolled out in the future in terms of
Development, future product.
Exactly. So, yep.
Potentially necessary firmware. All
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
You jumped on at a busy time.
Yes.
Haven't had a quiet few months in a row, have you?
No, not at all. Yeah.
How's it been going this year? Talk to us a little bit about Microflex Wireless Next.
Yes, absolutely. So Microflex Wireless Next. I mean, we were dating ourselves a little bit earlier. I'm a little younger than these guys, but just by a little bit. We were talking about Mr. Rogers, but then also a little Sandlot reference in terms of Microflex Wireless Next is basically PF Flyers. It's run faster, jump higher. It legitimately is Microflex Wireless we didn't really touch it for 11 years.
Yeah.
It was very, very rock solid right out the gate, but we were listening to our customers and we were listening to what it is that they were wanting. And we kind of gave them all of that and then some. So I think we already talked about the next two, where it's an all-in-one device where you have, it's your charging, it's where it's your access point. It also has built-in DSP, which all of the line has built-in DSP, 4-channel, 8-channel, which is something that is it really just allows more flexibility when you have a system that's just operating off of wireless. But then there's so many other things that have gotten better. Battery life on these things has increased. I mean, some of it is like the body packs and the boundaries are around 18 hours. Handhelds can be upwards of 40. Same with the goosenecks. Getting into the goosenecks, we now have something that is absolutely perfect. Everyone wants to know this. Is prior to the Microflex wireless did have an issue with how you were charging the goosenecks. You had to take up 2 slots on the charging bay, which obviously meant you needed to buy a second charger if you had 8 channels. And so we now have it. We've utilized some design aesthetics from ULXD and made those updates. And so you get to have exactly what it is that you need. So definitely some updates there.
Space efficiency too. We
Yes.
need less countertop, less shelf space to hold the number of transmitters that we want to put up in comparison to how we used to charge these.
Absolutely. And something that I also just did right there was I needed to slide this into the 2-pin alignment because it was not actually plugged in there for the USB-C charging. But there's only one way that this thing goes into the charger, which extends the life of it all, make sure that anyone can put this in here and they're not gonna, ruin something.
Screens. We didn't have screens on the last units.
Absolutely, which you have the ability to not only see battery power, but you have even more places where you can put what room this is, and then who's the instructor or who is it that's actually
Lecture
using
hall
it.
1, 2, 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then what else, guys? What are we
Can
missing?
can I still build a multi-channel system if I get above 8 channels, right? I'm building a
Absolutely.
larger system in the same way.
Absolutely, which we will bring that up in Designer, but that also is something to bring up about the charging. So we now have, it's going to have a dual NIC, which actually can be utilized as, wouldn't actually be a dual NIC, it's just going to be for daisy chaining, for adding additional chargers to where one single network connection, you're going to be able to, I mean, the list goes on for how many channels, but yes, you need a 24-channel system. All good. Everything is coming off of just one connection to a network switch.
Now my next 2 base has the USB bridge for direct
Yes.
connect to a computer running a Zoom, Teams, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do that same thing from the 4-channel and 8-channel access points?
Absolutely. And so those are going to be at the access point. In that scenario, like we know that there's a couple routes that people go. It's absolutely, the things would change if you want to have it on the ceiling. But the way that this works with, 150-foot cardioid pattern, you can legitimately place it on a wall up near where your compute would be, and you're just running a direct connect from the USB right off of that.
Really noticing that Shure is putting IntelliMix down into the microphone, right? Now, you can use it, you cannot use it, but it's certainly there.
Well, and it's this whole thing, right? First, we had whole rooms dedicated to gear, and then it was getting broken down into things like credenzas or even podiums. Now the joke is our customers are getting table legs to put stuff in. And so the more that we can give you the option of having the DSP and these endpoints, it's just the better it is for our customers.
Less hardware, less
Yep.
less ports to connect, less items to fail. Nothing but upside, especially on the IT side of being able to manage so many devices without having to drop a whole switch into the space.
And I love in bringing up our amplifier, just to touch on something that you guys didn't touch on, was that fact of the ability to power up to 8 in terms of utilizing 70 volt or 4 individual channels.
Mm-hmm.
You have one network connection versus if you utilize our active models, which is great, people love them. But if you have 8 of them, you need 8 additional drops, and sometimes that costs our customers, which we've seen it all. There's like, $300 all the way up to $1,000 a
Per
port.
port,
Per
yeah.
port. Yeah.
Yeah, universities and a lot of corporate campuses, the IT department charges back for the ability to access the network to the individual departments. And so it behooves the department to have as few spigots touching the network as possible. So this is an attempt to minimize that.
What I like about MXW is MXW Next is every once in a while Moore's Law works for you. Things get better, faster, sound better, cost the same or potentially less, like you're mentioning with the chargers or having IntelliMix DSP built in. Really win-win all across the board.
Absolutely.
And you still can, if you didn't want to put your access point in the middle of the room, you still can use the Dante output to route to an ANI USB
Absolutely,
matrix,
that's exactly
or
what I was gonna say.
to route to any of the other IntelliMix devices that can
Because I
then
can get a mixed output.
Yes. Yeah, mix as well as direct too. So depending on which route that you want to take, there's going to be, as we all know, there's going to be situations that call for either or.
So let's talk about IntelliMix room kits. What
Yes.
now am I getting in one big box?
Yes. So the big thing is you're witnessing that over here. And Shure is making computers. Shure is making touch panels, and we're getting involved into a competitive market. But something that we have seen, and I know we've all experienced this, is there are rooms that there's a lot of UC products on the market. There's the big players, the Logis, the Polys, Neat, and they work extremely well for rooms of certain sizes.
No free ads, Ryan.
Yes, well, look.
It's kidding. We're all friends. It's a
We're all
small
friends.
industry.
Well, and here's the thing, though,
No
is
big
like
deal.
when it gets beyond a certain size room, which a lot of times, can end up being, depending on acoustics, 16, 18 feet or beyond, they end up leaning on us. We are partners with all of them, and we get brought in to add in our MXA 920, P300, usually is that, or our 902 and ANI USB into that mix. And there's a reason for that, is because we are an audio first company, and that is absolutely what we care most about, is that you sound good. And then if you got great cameras like we do, you look good and you smell good on camera, but we want to make sure that you sound good. And a big part of that is, so us getting involved in this market is about being an audio first company that is making Teams rooms, devices that are just one touch join systems. So that in a sense is the core of what the kit is. And then the other aspects of that is we've partnered with Hudley in terms of camera smarts. And that goes all the way from a Hudley IQ up to a crew system of L1s for our larger multi-purpose spaces. And then the centerpiece is our MXA 902. And that is as you've heard, it's the microphone, it's the speaker, it's got IntelliMix built into it. So it's an all-in-one. I always said this because it's got the microphone and speaker. People way smarter than me and a little bit of witchcraft, Shure was able to pull it off.
And now we've got kits where you can get two MXA 902, so we
Yes.
can really start expanding the coverage
Yes.
with an IntelliMix room kit.
When we initially released the 902, the instruction was to only use one per acoustic environment.
Absolutely.
And now we're selling kits that put two in an acoustic environment.
Yes. Well, and not only that, but it auto configs and does all of the routing for you that is needed by just plugging everything in and pressing the power button on the compute, which is, that's where
That's really the cool part is
and
that
this is where the
Shure's
future's
making
going.
a
Yeah.
computer, but Shure's making an IntelliMix enabled computer.
And that is something.
the difference.
Thank you for adding that, so I didn't miss that. Is IntelliMix Room is built into the computer, so it is living on that, and this is where everything is being routed to, and it's being routed automatically. And to get back to your question about the two, we could actually pull up the user guide, in terms of the IntelliMix room kits, which it will go over exactly some things that you should take some considerations of in terms of distances between units. And there is a minimum and a maximum, but this definitely allows you to cover a far larger space than just one.
Yeah, it gets tricky when you're putting your microphone and your loudspeaker in the same physical space.
Yes. But then there's all like the cool algorithms that we're doing. Talking about AI denoiser, but then it's like speaker nulling, like knowing where in the room a speaker source is and being able to actually have avoid using some of our lobes to avoid that.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
Now we've got virtual acoustic boundary, voice activity detection,
Yes.
AID verb.
Yep.
We've got a lot going on. When we say IntelliMix, it's not only noise adaptive threshold and max bus, right? Those things are there too. We just keep adding on.
When the beauty of it is it is the most that we can do in terms of a compute has so much more horsepower. Our devices, like you mentioned, the second generation architecture, 920, it's even getting better and better. On the unit level, it'll continue to increase, but in our computes, which our IntelliMix Room kits has that built in. IntelliMix Room has the AI deverb, AI denoiser, and it's going to have all of the new algorithms that do take too much horsepower as we continue to bring these out. And you have that within the kit right at your fingertips.
And uses a virtual USB concept as opposed to needing to physically can make that audio to your codec connection. The codec is as the IntelliMix embedded. And so you've got the ability to just connect right out without having any physical connections take place.
So I can't help but want to start to combine all these things,
Yes.
right? We've got an IntelliMix Room kit with an MXA 902. I'm staring at an MXW next to. What about those rooms where I might want to start mixing and matching some of these other things we've been talking about, adding additional loudspeakers or additional microphones? How can I do that?
Absolutely. And that is where we have our foundation system, which is breaking it down to the two components. It's our compute and our touch panel. So with these two components, again, there is an 8-channel IMX room on the compute. So that allows you to kind of and then it's really your playground. What is it that you want to do? Is it an MXA 920 that's brought in there, which obviously is going to have an auto, it's going to have its own auto mix, and so that's going to be one channel. You want to bring in 2 channels of MXW Next, 4 channels, 8 channels. This is where it starts to get a little interesting because you could technically do something like 4 channels of MXW routed even directly into that, utilize our amplifier. You can have multiple speakers, or if you just utilize the 4 channels on there, you have individual zones. You can actually start to do things like voice lift within a system like our IMX Room Foundation, one-touch join, you have audience pickup, you can integrate our mute button even. I mean, it starts to really span out.
Just to put a finer point on that, so if we show the audience, this is what we're actually doing in our room today. So we've got the MXA 902, it's routing into the IMX compute. I've got the MXW Next 2 base here, so it's as easy as drag and drop. This would be the output of mic 1 and the output of mic 2 into my IntelliMix Room.
Yes, easy as that.
So that is adding an MXW Next 2 to your IntelliMix Room.
Yes.
And you could, even if you wanted to, you could submix the MXW products to a single channel.
Yes.
And then you have that many more channels available still in the IntelliMix Room.
Yes.
So just to show Jose, if we can, thank you, Jose and Justin in the back. So what we're looking at is we've got an APX8. This is the 8-channel MXW access point. You see there are 9 available outputs. So those correspond to the 8 direct outs, the 8 individual microphones, and the 9th auto mixed output, right? So just to prove the point, inside of the APX8, there is my auto mix out with my echo canceller. Okay, so there's your IntelliMix, noise reduction, auto mixing. It's all built into the APX8. So if I wanted to, I could take that 9th output back up into the IntelliMix Room compute.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And then at that point, I mean, you now have you got 10 channels of wireless. You got your ceiling array, you got your speaker, and
it's a pretty busy room.
Yes.
All that
no harm in adding IntelliMix into it, right? We keep throwing it at each other.
Yep. No issues there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What are we missing, Ryan? What haven't we mentioned so far?
I mean, you guys did a great job covering everything. I mean, it's been an exciting time for us, and it's going to continue to be. I mean, some of the stuff that's going to keep kind of happening is it's going to make it even more straightforward to having devices like wireless involved in our MX or IMX Room Foundation system, and the ability to kind of have auto config, because there is the room kits, absolutely, regardless of what kits you have, it auto configs. Where what we just did, it's not rocket science, but you still have to understand a little bit of
your integrator
can
help you get everything
1,000%.
set up and established. now that we're having all of these endpoints out into space, and we've been selling, all kinds of wireless into all sorts of facility where there's hundreds of channels on a single property, on multiple properties that might be spread across the globe. Shure has been cooking up something called ShureCloud. ShureCloud is free to any of our.
What's the best price, Peter?
Yeah, free, right? It's a way of monitoring your product, everything from battery life and health to the ability to know if somebody set it on the charger or not, to know if something is receiving data packet loss or not. Any information that you could get on site, you can now set up this ShureCloud to give you information. It can spit this out into a single pane of glass kind of a environment, has an API that can report to anything. So it's sort of a wide open information door for free, specific to these products, all of which are now included in.
Really, we could have been mentioning it as a feature along with each product is ShureCloud enabled. And we've got a little just quick look at what that looks like. Here's our organization. This is where you would sign up to the cloud, use your Shure single sign-on. So if you've signed up for our Shure Audio Institute platform or any of the other Shure logins should get you here. Here's what we've got going on at Geer Tech. You see everything we've got plugged in on the table today. Of course, we've got tons of devices that we've registered. This is when you call us up for a demo. This is all the gear we were pulling from. We've got it registered to our instance of ShureCloud and more functionality coming all the time.
Absolutely.
Firmware updates, the ability to manage and send batch information. So you've got 200 transmitters in a building and you want to go home at night, but you need to run the update overnight. You can run it from home in groups of 50 or 20 or whatever makes sense for your installation. It is definitely the way of things now is cloud, right? Cloud-based in all of the rest of our life. You start an email on your phone, you expect it to be on your laptop and vice versa. Anywhere that you can get access to the internet, you've got the ability to look at and manage your Shure products.
So we've got a lot going on. We're not done yet. Sure, in this 100-year anniversary year is, believe it or not, still got more to come. Still more to come next year. I have a feeling we'll be talking to you again, Ryan.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, thank you for joining Geer Talk.
Thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate it. Thank you, everybody out there in the internet world, and we'll talk to you soon.